Hey everybody, I'm Bede, aka the Terrible Australian Super Podcast, and welcome to the 12th edition of my 2014 MIFF video reviews. For this one, I'm going to be talking about the documentary The Search for Weng Weng, and as well as the period comedy drama Queen and Country. So let's get right into it. First up, The Search for Weng Weng, and as I've said previously in my other videos, got my MIFF guide here, which I'll be reading the synopses of all these films. The Search for Weng Weng. The 1982 Manila International Film Festival was supposed to shine a spotlight on highbrow Filipino cinema, but it was For Your Height Only, a schlocky James Bond rip-off with a pint-sized protagonist that gained all the attention, catapulting its star Weng Weng into international fame. Determined to understand why Weng Weng struck such a chord, cinephile Andrew Leavold sets out to discover the mystery of the heart of the action star story, and if he can, find Weng Weng himself. Now, you can definitely I was already aware of Weng Weng. My first sort of being aware of who he was in another documentary, Mark Hartley's 2010 documentary Machete Maidens Unleashed, which was a documentary that sort of explored the Filipino film industry. So this and Weng Weng and the film that he starred in, For Your Height Only, were one of the many subjects of that film. So that documentary sort of delves into Weng Weng for a little bit, and how For Your Height Only, and also another film that Weng Weng starred in, The Impossible Kid, sort of were one of the big hits. Bigger hit Filipino films. So, like I said, I was already aware of that. So it was really cool to see another documentary that sort of delves into that Weng Weng a bit more, and also to find out who he is, because Andrew Leavold, the director, and also the sort of the main interviewer of the film, he definitely has a huge love for cinema, and he has a passion for of Weng Weng, and as well as his film. So it was interesting because you can tell watching this doco that it was made with a lot of love, and also and I like the fact that it sort of delves into Weng Weng to find out exactly what happened to him. Like, pretty much after when those two films, For Your Height Only and The Impossible Kid, were released worldwide, he pretty much vanished off face of the earth. And so it's pretty much follows Andrew Leavold's journey to find out what happened to Weng Weng, but also to discover his background, what made him become a star, and how even his films are treated in his own home country. So it's an interesting aspect. It sort of delves into all that, and it is a bit a mystery as well. But spoilers for real life. So if you don't want to know what happens, I'm not going to spoil too much. But I'm not going to spoil anything. But I won't spoil what happens in the documentary. But I will say it goes in directions that you don't expect, and you sort of discover more about Weng Weng himself, and some of it was really surprising, and also quite tragic as well. And we find out that despite those two films that he appeared in, he actually appeared in a few other films as well, but they were never released worldwide. And it was also interesting to see how those who worked with him, from directors and actors and all that, and how their impressions of Weng Weng when they met him. And we sort of get through their experiences, given an idea of who he is. Now, I'm not going to spoil whether we find Weng Weng or not. I'm just going to leave that up to... I'm just not going to say what happens at all. But I definitely will say that it's a really enjoyable documentary. It's really interesting. And also, one of the things I really found interesting was the fact when the Philippines had the Manila International Film Festival, it was supposed to be as I said in the it says in the synopsis, it was supposed to be sort of showcase for Filipino cinema. So there was a lot of highbrow Filipino films, sophisticated films, and and this was their first ever international film festival. But out of all, none of the films sold, except for Wang Weng's film, and I like that the film sort of delves into that. The country may have been the film industry at that time was probably a bit hostile towards Wang Weng because they viewed him and the films he starred in as dumbing down of the Filipino industry, film industry. So it's interesting. The movie delves into that and also a couple other things as well, which I won't spoil. But it's a really good documentary. And I highly recommend everyone to check it out, especially if you love sort of cult cinema or Filipino cinema, and or just to have a fascination with film of anywhere, film culture, as well. So it's a great doco. It's really well done, and I highly recommend it. And to give this a rating, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. It was that good. Now on to the next film, which is Queen and Country. And what is this one about? I shall tell you. In 1952 London, 18-year-old Billy decides to join the army right on the cusp of the Korean War. The shy teen falls under the spell of a hell-raising womanizer Percy, and the two mischievously keep themselves entertained as the returning threat of combat looms over them. Now, Queen and Country, this film is directed by Academy Award nominated director John Boorman, who has made a lot of films in the past with mixed results. He made Excalibur, The Exorcist II, The Heretic, and many more. But probably his most well-known film is the 1987 film Hope and Glory, which he was nominated for an Oscar as both director and writer. And that film, I actually saw it for the first time, I believe, last year, and it's a really good film if you haven't seen it. And that film is an autobiographical film because it was about his life during as a child during World War II. And Queen and Country is actually the sequel to Hope and Glory, so which sort of follows our main character, who is the supposed to be John Boorman, but of course, he has a different name in the movie, but it's supposed to be him, and follows him as a teenager and enlisting in the army and, falling in love for the first time, his friends, and how he deals with his friends and family. And in a way, it's really good to kind of go back to revisit these characters, even though it's not the same actors playing these roles anymore. Because, the Hope and Glory came out in 1987, and this one came out, and Queen and Country came out this year. So there's a bit of a gap in between those three. Between the two films. I think 27 years, but I could be wrong, so don't quote me on that. But yeah, it was still interesting to sort of catch up with these characters. And it's definitely, I will say, it's a very old-fashioned film in a lot of ways, from both the writing, the direction, the performances, and all that. It feels like not the type of movie you would ever see anymore, and some people may have issue with that because it has that sort of old-fashioned quality to it, and I kind of enjoyed it for that. It's definitely not as good as Hope and Glory. I think there is... with Hope and Glory, that sort of film sort of made a good balance between drama and comedy, and this one definitely doesn't quite strike that balance as well as the first film, but it does have, and this one's definitely has a lot more comedic elements to it, and sort of the dramatic elements of the film, while okay, but they do feel a bit jarring, tonally jarring compared with the rest of the film. And the cast do a pretty solid job as well. And the film has a pretty solid supporting cast. You got Caleb Laundrie Jones, who was in X-Men First Class, Byzantium, The Last Exorcism, Antiviral, and he doesn't play the main character. He plays the character of Percy, the main character's best friend. And also you got a supporting cast including Richard E. Grant, David Thewlis, and who else? Sinead Cusack, and all the actors in the film do a pretty good, also all do a really good job with their performances, and also and it's very funny at times, and it's an enjoyable, nice little movie. But it does, like I say, it has a very old fashioned quality to it, and it's kind of feels more like it probably would have played better uh, as a TV film. And I'm not knocking it because of the quality or anything like that. It's just how it's a film that's doesn't feel very cinematic. It feels like it could have just like played more on, say, on television. And that's not a knock because TV movies these days have been really good, and but in terms of like what the film felt like to me, I was watching it. It felt like a TV film, and I don't mean that in a bad way. That's just how the impression I got with it when I was watching it. So, but overall, it's a nice little movie. It's not a great film by any means, and it's definitely not as good as Hope and Glory. But it does have heart, it does have humour, and it has some really solid performances. And I quite enjoyed it. I mean, it's not great by any means, but it's good. It's a good little movie. Not great, but good. If I had to give this one a rating, I'd probably give it a solid 3. It does seem like a bit lower than all the sort of praising I have been giving it as well. But at the same time, like it doesn't... I wish there was still a bit more to it, and... Yeah, it's a very simple film as well, but it would have been nice if there was a bit more meat to the bones to the script. But and also there's a character in the film that I just found the main character's sister, who I found really bizarre, and I think that it was both with both the performance from the actress who plays her and also how the character is written. I found rather off-putting. So yeah, but those sort of and also it does have a bit of pacing issues as well. So. Overall, it's a solid film. Again, 3 stars. Yep, that's the end of this 12th edition of my MIFF video reviews. Keep a lookout very soon for the 13th edition, in which I'll be talking about the Australian crime drama Cut Snake, and as well as the documentary I Am Big Bird, the Carol Speeney story. So keep a lookout for that one, and I'll see you guys later. See you everyone. Bye.